Hey guys, and welcome back. I'm sure you guys are used to hearing our three lovely voices, but today we've added an extra one. We have a special guest in the building and we are talking London Fashion Week. And today we want to talk about how she uses bold statements to create stories and dialogue. Today we've got Sylver Mair with us, guys. Can I get a little whoop, 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 whoop?
So we're gonna get a clap as well.
And a clap. Let's and a little clicks. And a clicks. Welcome to the show. Honestly, it's so nice to have you here. Welcome. How are you feeling today?
Good, yeah.
You look amazing, brother. Yeah, honestly, you look like sunshine.
Yeah, let's talk about this fair. Like,
you look like sunshine.
Come on,
Yeah,
like straight off the runway. What's going on? What's the fit? Like, what?
Tell us the idea behind why you picked. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of layering, but not over layering. I feel like art school students, we get a bit wild with layering, and then suddenly you're moving in whack ass directions. And then this belt is just, I just wear it on everything. I'm like, can I put a belt, a headscarf, and a corset on top of anything? Then I'm done. That's just me.
Yeah.
And then these trainers are just like, they're Naked Wolf, and they're the best investment I ever made because like they were pricey, but they have not been off my feet for the last 2 years. So
would you say they're comfortable?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Is it more like a break-in shoe? Do you have to like break them in?
It's comfy in terms of the look I like. Okay. And then it's comfy.
It's comfy enough.
Still liking the look.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah,
like it hits the balance nicely.
They are like transport shoes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They're like nothing. Nothing can get in my way. Yeah. No stone, no pebble, no cigarette. I am stepping through.
You say that staircases will take you out.
What?
But the back of the heel ain't your foot. So you'll step where you think your foot is, but the.
So how do you climb stairs with these? What's the method?
They remind me of the Balenciaga Triple S. The kind of shape.
Do you have to go sideways for the stairs?
You just got to make sure your actually centre of weight is very much directly on and firmly confirmed before you move on.
So if we talk about gravity every time the stairs come about,
like with your shoes.
And one thing that's standing out for me as well is like the jewellery that you got on, the pieces you got on that. Would you be able to just walk us through that? Like,
so my jewellery I wear is like the opposite of my work. So my whole thing with like jewellery, like if you're wanting to make these pieces, like that is time and stress and pain for something so small. So I buy like £1, £2 charity shop random stuff that like I just love the shapes or like the vibe or how they sit together. And like this is my sister's and I spray painted it and now the spray paint's coming off but I like it because it's gold and it's silver.
Nice, I like that.
But like so because my stuff is usually so like massive, I don't care about like a lot of jewelers talk about like price and silver and gems and all that shit. I don't fuck with it. If I like the shape, I like the vibe, then cheap is good. Like,
I love that sentence.
I like that.
Cheap is good. Yeah, we're talking about on the budget, guys. Yeah, cheap is good. Man. Cheap is good.
And since we're on the topic of like jewellery and things like that, obviously we know that you make your own unique jewellery, bespoke jewellery yourself, and you've got a lot of fantastic designs, of course. But obviously we know that you got fantastic designs, but would you be able to just tell us more about obviously who you are, Sylver, as well as your brand, and obviously what inspires you to make the designs and why you started? So I'm gonna say start off with tell us more about yourself.
Yeah.
So I'm 22. I'm about to go into my final year of studying jewellery at Central St Martin's.
Close. On that final year, girl.
Do you know what I mean?
The last stretch.
The last stretch.
Very excited to finally make that final hurdle. I started off. It's hard to work out how I ended up doing what I do, but I always wanted to be a lawyer when I was a kid. Crazy. And I went to like a very stressful academic like school that was very much like, if you don't want to be a doctor, a lawyer, a dentist, then you aren't worth talking to. And so I always thought I wanted to do that, and like that was my thing. But then growing up, I had interactions with the law that made me be like, actually, like, you people don't serve people like me. Like, you're not here for the non-binary, queer, black women out here. Like, we shouldn't be sitting together. So I realised that art was like my thing, and I also started developing essentially ways for the law and the art to sit together. So my work now is a lot about trying to find unique perspectives to come at issues that I feel aren't respectfully, the stories aren't told respectfully or with enough nuance or with like authenticity. And I feel like for Black, queer, all of those spaces, like our stories end up being told by other people that don't understand them, and you get this such reductive, dry ass same story. So my work has been kind of trying to use it to make those same conversations I thought were going to happen in a courtroom kind of happen in real life with people at exhibitions, on runways, or like just out and about or on social media. So having those themes are at the core of the work, and then the idea is that through the work, like, I can make things that people are like, oh, that looks sick, but then they're like, oh, what does it mean? And then you go more
controversy.
Into it. But
it's
also,
a conversation starter.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, you can decide the level to which you want to buy into it. So, like, if you just want to enjoy the art and be like, oh, that's a sick
piece,
headpiece or whatever, that's your business. But if you want to get into it and be like, what, like, why have you handled the metal like that? Why have you done X, Y, and Z? Then suddenly we're having a conversation about something you really didn't expect to be having a conversation about in a more natural way than law or that kind of cold barrier world, whereas art
window.
I was levels. I was just gonna say
I've got like we had the same question. Guys were fighting for questions. I'm like, yo, I got so many questions.
I don't know.
Do you want to go? Should I go?
I don't know what's
okay. So I just wanted to touch on, because you seem like such a multi-dimensional person, and even the way that you kind of look at your art is kind of the same way like I look at my music as well. It's like seeing past, like giving people different options to interpreting it. But I was just going to ask, what made you choose jewelry as your medium out of everything, you know, because like even just your fashion alone is like, you could have chosen clothes, you could have chosen headpiece, you could have chosen belts, you like belts, you know, like that kind of piece. What made you choose jewelry as that expression?
So firstly, my name is Sylver Mair. Eulalee was my grandmother who died the year I was born, and she was Windrush, and she dressed like wildly and in like the craziest garments, the craziest jewelry. And because I was born and she died in the same year, my dad gave me her name, and he also gave me all of her jewelry. So I knew from, it's weird, I always thought I wanted to do law, but the creative like business was always in my head from day one as well. But I thought it was going to be more of a side hustle. So my thing was always going to be called Eulalee, and jewelry was kind of, or jewelry accessories was always the thing that first inspired me in that sense. But then later I did a lot of theatre, and I did a lot of costume design and set design and stuff like that. But I loved details, and I knew that also the fashion world, like, there's a billion women's wear designers that are coming at it as a women's wear designer. Like, I know how to pattern cut, I know how to tailor, I know how to this, but I felt that if I went the jewelry way round of maybe, like, my thing first became like, I want to be a pattern cutter in metal, and that kind of evolved from there. Like, I don't always work in metal and stuff, but it was, I wanted to come at fashion from a different standpoint that I thought would give me a more unique perspective in the industry. And also, if I'm being real, jewelry can pay you without, like, it. You don't need to be Alexander McQueen to make money in jewelry. Like, at the end of the day, if times are tough, you know how to make a wedding ring. You know how to make a, like,
definitely. That's so true, actually.
These pieces that I don't really agree with the industry, but you can sell for a lot for a wide market audience.
Definitely.
Like, it has a good backup to it that I don't dislike as a lot of other backup options, I suppose.
Because you're thinking long term as well, you know, like wanting to be in something you enjoy but still can live life off of as well, which I completely understand,
And I feel like it's better to not be naive in an industry that, like, has a like 1% chance of me getting the dream that I want. Like, I'm gonna fight for that, but I also know like the bills will get paid.
Yeah, girl, they got to get paid.
Which balance, is man.
Like what was like when you say the dream, like what is that?
The dream is, so I really don't believe in, I don't know whether this is naive, but I don't believe in specializing. And at every point in my life, I've been kind of told, you need to specialize, you need to specialize.
Thank you.
And
I agree with that too.
You're in good company.
Literally you're in great company.
It's just, I think it's wrong. And like at this point in my career, like I've worked so hard to prove that when I say I'm an art director, I mean I'm an art director. When I say I'm a textile designer, I mean I've done textile design. When I say all these things. So I want to create Sylver, which is a brand that spans over everything, but dealing with the reason why Sylver is, it's after my granddad. I changed my name. I picked his name, so Sylvester. But the Y instead of the I to me meant asking why and removing this I ego of fashion and the industry and replacing it with why. So intentional design, intentional materials, only storytelling. So what is the why behind everything I'm making? And I want that to like, for me, ideally to span across all the things. So I want to have like couture lines that are very runway, that are very, that I want to do art direction for big films, doing the sets, doing the costumes, doing that kind of stuff. I want it to be like an ecosystem or kind of a design philosophy that can span across the disciplines that I want it to sit in. And eventually, like, the dream for me has always been, like, if I can sell pieces that relate to a story of a community that I am either a part of or are, like, directly related to in some way, like, if the profits and the proceeds from whatever runway show, if it's speaking about black women and domestic abuse, like, you work with Sister Space and it goes back in that way.
You're almost always recycling it because it's like feeding a community and it's still letting people know the art as well at the same time. So I like that a lot.
There's an eternal, like there's this like eternal, I feel like, sense to your work. And like I want to pitch this as like a way of like, so, you know, you were given this jewellery, so then this new life was created, which then was put with you, not on you, but like, and using like silver, so using like metal, which tends not to break, like it's a circle is normally like the thing of like eternal, like was that, and when you actually say silver, like, and you're taking you out of that, when you create this ecosystem, you thinking like this not just has a life outside of me, but this has this eternal goal to just build and build, and actually always using silver just felt strong because there's like an eternal like bond, I suppose, to your work.
I think I definitely want it to live outside me more than be attached to me. I think that like it's a weird dynamic to have of being called the same thing as the thing you're building, and it's automatically harder to manage the ego when the two things are like,
I can imagine.
This, but I think I've had, I think growing up and you're like black and you're in, like, I grew up in a very white environment being the black kid, and I think it gives you a kind of chameleon soul ability to kind of separate yourself from yourself in other people's context, if that makes sense. So within that, I feel like I can just use what I've learned in those situations to be like, this is me and it comes from me, but this is so much bigger than me. And I think the person who inspires me in that sense is definitely, like, it's an obvious name, but like Virgil Abloh, in the sense of he was someone in the industry that made waves because he was just a refreshing, genuine voice in the industry that thought about things differently and thought about people differently. And I feel like there's a billion fashion designers with like these big egos, these big dreams, these big LVMH and all of these things, and it's like the world doesn't need that, and we all know that the world doesn't need that. So why are we all still trying to
attain
do that? Like I don't understand it, and I feel like I understand the charity side, the law side, all of that side means more to me, but I have a talent. I hate that word, but like I have.
I know the feeling.
My purpose is in this, so how do I translate that to do the other stuff that I actually think is important? Not that I don't think art is important, but that is on the ground important. How can I use that, but not make it about me? Ultimately, like, and the reason, like, to me, it's like Sylver and Eulalee is that I've got my two grandparents here. That is, to me, it represents Windrush and coming to this country and wanting to build the silver and get the gains and get the money, and not having that opportunity. And like, what does Black Britishness mean when we're rebuilding post these direct struggles that they had to face of like Windrush and that, like, how do we take it that next step and like build on like generational wealth and all of these things in real terms, and how can I use fashion to do that? I guess. So I feel like I'm rambling.
No, I like the way that you articulated yourself, because you're basically talking about how you're continuing your family legacy and not letting it ever die through your own medium, which is through jewellery and art. And obviously, true to your name, you had an exhibition called Precious Metals. So literally just talk us through that. Like, how is it? Because not everyone gets to have an exhibition, you know? Something exciting.
That is exciting. Very well done.
So how is that?
Yeah, exhibiting has been a bit of a madness to me, because I remember like my foundation exhibition and being like, wow, this is like so exciting, and like not gonna happen like until my like BA exhibition. And then I was very lucky to I'm like an obsessive applier, like open calls, like I can't. People tell me to delete Instagram. I'm like, you don't understand. If I miss an open call, like, what if that was the life-changing one kind of vibe? So I applied for an open call and got selected by this collective called Crucible, who is run by a really talented Black queer metalsmith, Roxanne Simone.
Shout out to him.
Shout
out.
Her.
Yeah.
Shout out to
She's
her.
brilliant. But she started a collective for POC jewelers and metalsmiths.
Oh, wow.
And basically they did that because it was lockdown and stuff. We were meant to do an exhibition then in Munich for Munich Jewellery Week, which is a massive like jewellery fair exhibition event thing in Munich. We were meant to do that, but then because of COVID couldn't, and so we did a newspaper with them instead, and then the next year we did a newspaper. And then that year, we got offered to do an exhibition at Goldsmiths.
Crazy.
Which is like...
I know, amazing.
The jewellery world is very, as you can probably imagine, white, old money, rich. So Goldsmiths Fair is a... How do I just
so that potential like apology, like... there's those spaces, like...
They're very, you usually to even exhibit at Goldsmiths Fair, your work has to be in gold or silver, and there's all of these like rules and stuff that you have to hit to be in this kind of, in a very British way, prestigious, elite like kind of realm of what jewellery should be. And Roxanne is very good at disrupting things and taking me along on that journey with her. And she worked with them to curate Precious Materials, the exhibition that was featuring a load of POC designers that had all made works about that weren't in silver, gold and traditional high class I guess materials. It was a really good experience, but it's just very, the jewellery world to me is so ironic all of the time because of its fascination with material hierarchy and its rejection of anything that doesn't sit into that, when it's also like with metals and stuff. Another thing to me that was important with silver is that like this wealth and these literal metals were all stolen from Black and Indigenous peoples, and then used to create this industry of white luxury and wealth and opulence. But it's funny that the craft techniques that we used in Africa, in England now, are like artisan and craft and so expensive, but only when handled with white hands. And so that exhibition was just a really beautiful disruption of that whole space and how elitist and kind of backwards the industry is in that space.
You saying that, what I'll say as a jeweler, what adds value to jewellery to you? Like, because obviously I don't come from that world, so I won't know exactly what to look out for and things to see. So like, what would you say that is? In case I want to get my little piece, you know what I'm saying? I want to make sure it's good.
Just a little something.
Little piece.
For me, I don't care at all for material hierarchy. Like silver, gold, whatever. I like that means nothing to me. For me, it's about the handling of the material, whatever the meaning in it is to me. You can make brass look like gold if you're good enough at working with metals. And that to me is a billion times more special if someone's done something really gorgeous with something that, or like a tooth that they've carved, or like something like that where there's real artistry to it, as opposed to a lot of like drip and stuff like that. I understand it from a cultural standpoint, and I think that has real wealth to it, and that's where its money is actually, the cultural implications of that, not the fact that it's gold and it's diamonds and it's this and it's that. Like, I don't think that's where the wealth of anything sits. And on a real level, like the markup on jewelry, like you're not really paying for, like, it's all a illusion to a sense. Like the metals are expensive, but they're not expensive like they're selling it. And a lot of the like high street, like upper market shops, it's like, this isn't, they'll call it 925 silver, but it isn't. But there's like the little loopholes as to how you can say that something is 925 something, like plausible deniability kind of vibes.
You get that in every industry, innit?
So for me, it's like, if you fuck with an artisan, like there's some really, I can't remember his name, but there's a Japanese jeweler that stone carves pearls into skulls, and they're these tiny like pearls that are the most detailed, like photorealistic skulls, and stuff like that. I'm like,
that's a lot. Let me get something.
That is some
like,
art.
I'd rather pay a mint for that than a diamond ring. When, like, if you look into like De Beers and how they marketed diamonds to people, it's just marketing. It's not wealth or status or anything. It was just really smart marketing, and I'd rather buy into craft than into marketing.
Definitely.
I was gonna say that, like, it's, so for you it's more the craftsmanship and literally just like, obviously I'll say sentimental value as well to what that piece could mean to you. Do you get what I'm saying? So if it's like a one-of-one piece for a wedding, it could be, I don't know, in terms of like production, it could cost you £100 to make that ring, but obviously you might have set designs or disc designs to make it look a certain way, and that could literally be of more value to you as a person than a ring that cost £200,000. Do you know what I'm saying? Something like that. So I like where you're going with that, I can't lie.
I love the idea of like, even just you speaking on having been in touch with jewelry after kind of, I want to say, inheriting jewelry. Like, I feel like to me, it makes me feel like you've had such a relationship and have learned so much along the way. Have you felt like there's anything you've learned that has been like a big lesson to you now as a jewelry designer? You know, like things that you would want to, like, not, or let me just say, re-educate people as you've kind of entered the jewelry world? Is there anything that's kind of struck you on your journeys or your travels? Like, what have been your biggest lessons so far, anyways? I know it's such a wide question, sorry. But just like to name a few.
I think the biggest thing that shocked me, I guess, or was a lesson, was that the jewelry industry is not where the fashion or art industry is in terms of its journey on cultural acceptance and all of that. It was surprising to me to kind of have accidentally have ended up in this kind of first wave of there's excellent other POC jewelers like that are a lot older than me that are making those waves, but it somehow feels like we're still in the kind of same generation of people in that space, which is really, that was a surprise to me, because I think I just naively maybe assumed that it would be the same as fashion, which, even though fashion world isn't perfect, like they know black people exist, they know
do.
our designs are like seen, and all of that. That was definitely a thing for me, and I think I didn't realize in that same sense how conservative it still was as an industry, and how quickly it's all about language to a degree in the industry. So if your work is perceived as a costume jeweler, then it's lower class. If you're perceived as a fine jeweler, then you're the upper class. If you're contemporary, you're kind of upper but a bit left field, like you're a bit different, but it's still, you're putting in galleries and that kind of stuff. And there's all these kinds of ways to categorize you that essentially are irrelevant apart from your price point of what they deem you to be worthy of selling at. And I think for me, like, just learning that I didn't have to be the jeweler that university or the industry said I had to be to get somewhere, and that I just had to do me. And like the industry is gonna put every wall in
front of you.
It's gonna do that, and at the end of the day, like, I don't particularly care. Was my kind of learning from it was just like, I know that what I'm doing is right, and the real world is telling me also that what I'm doing is right.
I feel like that was the whole reason for you to notice it. Have you not ever, like, because sometimes I feel like even in life, like, you wanted to be a lawyer, you know, like, it's such a complete different contrast, and you not going to be a lawyer but interacting with the law, that it kind of made you this amazing jewelry designer. It's like life kind of propelled you in that way, and without this kind of lack thereof, your kind of substance and how much like the history goes into your jewelry almost wouldn't have the impact it does have. Do you know what I mean? So even though it's like probably a negative lesson to have seen amongst the jewelry world, you're kind of here to fill it. So I feel like that's an amazing like part of your trajectory into jewelry. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited, honestly.
I mean, I was gonna say, I mean, like, because you're navigating through spaces which like aren't open or let out for people like us, and exhibitions as well, like, you know, you can, I suppose, sometimes fall in the trap if it's like as performative, not you, but as in like that space is being held, but it's a performative of who's in that space. And I think like as somebody who is navigating it, and you know, you are in spaces, but there's spaces that are good and there's spaces that are bad and there's spaces that are sadly performative, like, have you found, and can you tell us any like spaces, collectives who, you know, put you in those exhibitions because you bloody deserve it and it's right, and like your work needs to be seen by these people, it needs to be seen by everybody, from like, you know, like, to be so like frank, like, you know, like little kids, little black kids, little people of colour, like from, you know, from like small towns like Devon, and they come up to the Tate like once a year and you don't see anything that you can do, so you think, I can't do art,
I can't do jewelry
because that's not right, or I can't do jewelry. Like, where are the spaces that actually are right now doing bits to inspire?
I've been very, very lucky to have a few incredible black women in my life that have really, like, just kind of seen me, which has been lovely, and taken me with them on like their like journey. So firstly, Roxanne Simone, who runs Crucible, which is the Metalsmiths one. There's also Natalie, who runs a collective, I guess, called Girls About Peckham, which is based in Peckham but like does stuff all around. I think she'd done like a Tate Late as well and stuff like that. Wow. She's currently got this thing called 15 Quarters, which is all about girls DJing. But my work with her has been specifically fashion. So we did a panel for February's Fashion Week about where they invited I think 5 or 6 designers from Africa over, and we were in conversation with 5 or 6 UK black designers, and things like that. She is incredible. There's a lovely woman called Rose Sinclair who runs like she does a lot of stuff with like handcraft and the history of handcraft, and she's just like invited me to speak at Goldsmiths to their MA Business of Design students, which is like so wild to me. I can't really process that, because I'm like, are you sure? Like, I'm on BA, but okay, I'll come talk to the MA people.
Yeah. But as you should.
Would you say that's one of your biggest, I'll say, like one of the biggest things that you're proud of today?
See, that question is one that has been like rolling around in my head on a daily basis for a really intensely long time now, because
don't blame me.
Like, I've realized that something recently, like, everyone tells you how to cope with your dreams not coming true, and no one tells you how to cope with them coming true, which I've literally Googled, and every Google result is like, how to cope when you fail, how to cope when you fail.
Wow. I know.
And I was like, but there's no, like, I'm in spaces now that I, like, 19-year-old me would have been like, what the hell is this? And I think the Goldsmiths thing, it's one of the proudest in the sense of like, with like where I went to school and all of those kinds of things, just academically being like, what I'm doing has worth, like, and worth beyond it being a cool thing, or like, and that is good enough to like teach a standard that I am not at, is a bit like,
it's very surreal for you, isn't it? Yeah. Nah, I get you.
But I don't know whether, because I think to me, like, I'm so against like where I went to school and like the elitism of that experience, that I'm kind of like, I'm so proud of this, but I'm also aware that I'm proud of it because of a context that I didn't like being in, if it makes sense. It's like my young self is like, oh, look at you, the teachers didn't think shit,
of course.
Now it's this.
Sometimes you need that fuel in life, innit, just to get you to that place you want to be, because sometimes you can become complacent because you think, okay, everything's good, all right. But then you need someone to be like, nah, you're not anything, like, who do you think you are, type thing, so that you can then show them, this is who I am. Do you get what I'm saying? And you step out, then you do your thing. So I like how you touched upon that. It's very inspirational, for sure.
No, honestly. And just a last question from me. I wanted to ask you, what advice would you give to any young designers that are kind of trying to follow in your same footsteps, or kind of want to get into, or kind of, I want to say, have the same understanding in jewelry as you do, in terms of like where you said there's a lot of words that try to put people in boxes, niches, but what would you say to any young designer that kind of wants to have that freedom like you have had in your jewelry, to be fair?
I'd say, one, if someone's telling you to specialize, you need to look at the reasons why they're telling you that. And if you don't trust the reasons, then don't believe them. Secondly, like, I think the thing that has helped me the most is always looking for back doors. And I think whether you're in an art school or you're not, or like, there's people at CSM that it's like, oh, we're at CSM, so every door is open. And it's like, but no one's walking through any of those doors, because it's the reality of those opportunities isn't necessarily what you think it's going to be. And I think like things like Fashion Week and all of these things, there's a billion barriers to being in those spaces. But if you find the assistant stylist of a stylist, or the assistant of someone, or like there's, or these collectives or anything, but I'd say never, or very rarely, go at anything head on, because you're just going to get upset that this dream isn't coming for you. But there's a billion other ways round the back doors to get into the same places that, and also I'd say there's accounts on Instagram like Assisting Work, Kid Circus, there's loads of other ones that post like daily things on their stories for like, and that was how I first did my London Fashion Week film, was through like just seeing a random opportunity, messaging someone, like open calls. There's things like Bricks magazine that send out really good lists of opportunities and stuff like that. So I'd say like just always keep your eye out for the back door, and also just if you believe in something and the people around you aren't, just keep doing it and keep it quiet and keep it moving, because if it doesn't seem right now, the more time and energy and work that has gone into it, you're gonna make something good and that cannot be argued with for whatever reason they're telling you to not do it now. Like, just do your thing.
I love that.
Do your thing.
Guys, that was Sylver Mair in the house. Click, click, click. Thank you so much, honestly.